You're the Batman?
So you're fast.
Justice League Snyder Cut is 8 years in the making. And what an 8 years it's been. From tragedy to fan campaigns and everything in between, the production of this 4-part movie is basically a film itself. So what did the behind the scenes of this HBO cut look like? And how close did Snyder really come to filming the Batman and Joker scene in his own backyard? Snyder Cut isn't just an added bonus for fans of the DC universe. There's a deeper meaning and reasoning as to why the film was even made. But first, let's dive into how they actually brought the film to life.
I mean, we have to try. Don't we? We have to try.
We can all agree that Jason Momoa has been a truly epic addition to DC, hands down. But when we found out what it actually looks like when he's filming his water scenes, we couldn't hold back our laughter. Take a look. It's just such a drastic difference from what we see in the final version that we couldn't help but be taken aback. Apparently, Jason had no control of his body when he was filming these scenes. He was attached to a robotic arm and rig so they could coordinate his movements the way they wanted. The best part? They had to tie his hair back into a hairnet so they could use VFX to really control the way it moved underneath the water. Kudos to Momoa on this one.
And then you look back at him and you
Got it.
If you think Momoa had it bad while filming those scenes, he's also admitted that going to the washroom wasn't the easiest while wearing his costume. And his trident? Well, that would leave him sore for days after a shoot that involved fighting with it. But that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to how uncomfortable the Justice League's costumes can be. Amber Heard literally had to be vacuum sealed into her Mara suit. And the first time Ezra Miller put on the Flash costume, it was so constricting, he couldn't even lift his arm over his head.
Yeah, I need friends.
Just by looking at Wonder Woman's suit, you can tell it's not the most comfortable thing to be in. But listen to Gal Gadot recount just how excruciating it was to wear.
It was so tight, and I literally could not breathe.
But Ben Affleck is one-upping her by telling people he had to have 6 crew members zip him up into the bat suit before filming. The most comfortable one in Snyder's cut might just have been Jared Leto's Joker, whose costume looks so comfortable even we wouldn't mind trying it on. You might have noticed that his costume and makeup were even more simple than what we saw in his last appearance in Suicide Squad. Snyder says that's because his one scene takes place in Batman's nightmares.
Batman.
One major difference between Justice League and Snyder Cut, how hands-on Snyder was as a director behind the scenes. We're talking like completely into it as if he was about to film the scene alongside the actors. In the behind-the-scenes footage, you can see how he would explain moves and choreography and placement step by step to each actor. Half the time he was next to them when the cameras were rolling, and we never even knew. And you can bet he was 100% proud of his work. So proud that when someone asked him if he would be using any footage that Joss Whedon had shot, his response was, "I would set it on fire before I use a single frame that I did not photograph." Some would call him dramatic, but we're choosing to call him dedicated.
Okay.
That dedicated attitude he had is probably what set the tone for how happy and laid-back set life was for the cast while they were filming under his direction. The behind-the-scenes outtakes and bloopers will show you just how much of a family this cast was. However, when the dynamic changed with Joss Whedon, Gal Gadot admits that things weren't the same during the reshoots. When asked how the experience was working with Whedon, she said it honestly wasn't that great. "I had my own experience with him, which wasn't the best one. But like the independent woman she is, she took care of it." We can't help but wonder how much of the set's atmosphere transferred into the movie, and maybe played a role in all the negative reviews the original Justice League received.
I'm so sorry.
Let's all take a moment to think about how much technology has changed since 2016. A lot. Apple was only at the iPhone 7 when Justice League was first released. Wild. And while this definitely befitted Snyder, it was extremely difficult to get all the archived VFX work out of storage and transferred into the programs they'd be using. After everything was said and done, they only had 6 short months to recreate half of all the movie's VFX, including characters like Darkseid, who weren't even included in the original. The hardest thing to bring to life in the editing room? Steppenwolf. And we can definitely see why. Luckily, the editing department managed to dodge having to edit Superman's mustache again. If you like the original Justice League, you'll remember the uproar around his creepily edited upper lip. Here's a peek. At the time of reshoots, Henry Cavill had a contract with Paramount to keep his mustache, but all of Snyder's footage happened pre-mustache. Whew.
Well, I guess I do own one.
We mentioned that Joker had an appearance in Snyder's cut, but it almost didn't happen. Snyder was desperate to somehow have this scene included, even if the actors had to film it in his backyard. He even told Ben Affleck, "Let's just do it in my house. I could shoot it in the backyard." But there'd be no backyard shoot. Warner Brothers finally caved and let him shoot the scene in studio. It's the only moment not part of the original footage. The cool thing is that Ben Affleck and Jared Leto had conflicting schedules and didn't even shoot on the same day. The scene was pieced together in the editing room later on.
I'll be the bigger man.
The music in Snyder's cut is also all new. Musician Junkie XL no longer enjoyed the music for the original film, so he spent 6 months creating a score in the spare bedroom of his home in the midst of a pandemic. Impressive. He says, "There were days I woke up in the morning. I didn't know how I was going to finish it." Well, we're glad he did. Another perk for Snyder getting his cut on HBO was that he got to air it in the format he originally wanted it in. You might have noticed that the 4-part movie isn't available in widescreen and only 4:3. It's all part of the creative vision, and Snyder wanted to make sure it'd be able to be shown on an IMAX screen one day.
It's already here.
The truth is, Snyder Cut was never meant to make it to any screens whatsoever. Director Zack Snyder was signed on to the original Justice League back in 2016. Tragedy struck at home. After the passing of his daughter, he decided to step away, and his version of Justice League was reshot and reshaped to match director Joss Whedon's vision. But when fans heard that there was a version of Justice League that was true to Snyder's vision, they joined forces and petitioned to have it released. Like, actually petitioned. They managed to get thousands of signatures and the support of Ben Affleck and Amber Heard. Warner Brothers just couldn't deny them any longer, and born was the deal with HBO. If you pay attention, you'll see that the 4-part movie is actually dedicated to Snyder's daughter. At the end of the film, it reads, "For Autumn. Without her, this absolutely would not have happened." Snyder's cut on HBO was definitely the better option for the footage than what was originally going to happen with it. Snyder admits he was just going to use it as some cool videos on his laptop to share with friends.
You see, I believe enemies are coming.
Stop right there. I'm in.
No one can say there wasn't a tremendous amount of effort from not only Snyder and his crew, but the fans of the DC Universe. This project is the actual definition of dedication. It's amazing to think about how perfect and polished Snyder's cut ended up looking, despite all the hardships it faced to even get made. And the music being produced in a bedroom? Mind-blowing! What are your thoughts on the newest addition to the DC collection?